Can you imagine being Neymar in a threesome and you look up and it's just yourself
looking at you
with a fucking boner looking back at you? Like, how surreal must that be?
There's a spot just under the ball sack that's particularly sensitive.
I'm coming up, so you better get. You're like, oh my god. Welcome back to Extra Shot, the podcast about the funniest stories in sport this week. And on the show today, Neymar's threesome spawns a pregnancy. But who's the daddy? The Brazil striker or his lookalike? Cristiano Ronaldo's coded messages to the KGB. And Trent on Merseyside sends us a letter. What's the Spanish for stop saving chat? My name is Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Hello, we're joined by JP. JP is arriving on the grubby sofa at Upshot Towers on a permanent deal. Yeah. He's never leaving.
Yeah.
We're nailing him down.
I describe Jack Rivlin as the Harry Redknapp of the podcast world.
You're sort of the Nico Crenshaw.
I'll just bring it with me everywhere.
Transfer deadline day.
Yeah, he was outside my house in the Range Rover, bringing my missus flowers, asking my dad how he was and all that. And then I signed the contract and he fucks off to the Maldives for 2 weeks.
Job done. Got my brown
Harry.
envelope.
Yeah. Proper Harry.
Yeah, took my taste of the deal. Yeah, so JP is going to be on every Extra Shot from now on.
Yeah, on the content wheel, guys.
Exciting news.
Yes.
You're not the only transfer news this week, are you?
I'm not.
Trent, it looks like it's done. He's going to Real Madrid. The worst kept secret in football, I would argue, at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's funny that it always seems to be Liverpool and Real Madrid that they have a bit of a flirt in terms of players transferring. You know, like McManaman, Owen, and
what, like a 9-month.
Yeah, they hate each other, don't they? They're not really like friendly as clubs, but they always seem to end up with big marquee signings.
I think also those Spanish clubs do that thing because they have the lure.
Yeah.
And Barca, where it's like a big saga. Like Beckham, we had it. Even like Coutinho and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's quite. I'd be interested to see how much the Liverpool fans kick off because I can't get my head around it personally. I think it's just mental. Like, let him go, you know.
I think it's fair enough. He's won basically everything there is to win.
He has won every trophy. He's been there 21 years because he was like a child.
Yeah.
And he's obviously born and bred. But generally, I'd say the Liverpool fans are reacting with the kind of restraint and understanding you'd expect. So there's a lot of calls for him to be banned from the title parade.
I feel that's just a bit much, isn't it?
Come on. It's like when Jurgen Klopp left and there were all these calls to the radio that people, they basically sounded like they thought he was dead.
They kept going, I just hope he's not ill. And you could tell what they really meant was, I hope he's dying. Because that's the only reason I'll accept for why he's leaving us. To be fair, some of them have been quite funny. So online, Liz, our producer, showed us a tweet. One Liverpool fan said, that corner wasn't even that fast anyway. I saw another one being like, that was actually really bad sportsmanship taking that corner quick.
They're just quite intense, aren't they, Liverpool fans?
I mean, you can understand how gutting it must be, but I don't think you can blame him.
No.
It's actually really similar. So Bastian Schweinsteiger, who was like Bayern, youngster, it was his boyhood club, like Trent. And in 2010, when he was sort of at like the peak of his powers, there was another big protracted transfer saga with Real Madrid. They were like, he's going. And on the final day of the season, it still hadn't been clarified. And after the game, the club were like, Bastian would like to make an announcement to the fans. And the whole stadium just broke out in boos. They thought he was about to say he's going. And they were like booing really hard. And then he's just like, I've renewed my contract. Got a video of it actually here.
Liebe Bayern-Fans, ich wollte es euch als allererstes sagen, ich spiele jetzt schon 12 Jahre hier beim FC Bayern München. Und ich wollte euch sagen, ich habe meinen Vertrag für 5 Jahre verlängert für euch.
It would have been great if he changed his mind in that moment and been like, I've signed you know what? Fuck you, like. Just tore it up in front of them.
Yeah, I've got to Dortmund.
Yeah.
Anyway, Trent's departure looks pretty confirmed. He's off to Madrid. But it's a shame for Liverpool fans that they can't turn to the methods they used to keep another homegrown hero at the club, Steven Gerrard. Because do you remember in 2004, there was all that stuff about him leaving for Chelsea?
Yeah,
I didn't realise that it was signed.
Yeah, we flirted.
Really?
I didn't know.
He texted Mourinho saying, I can't wait to start working with you.
Yeah.
Like it was done.
I remember all that. Like, I think it was Peter Kenyon at the time was like all over Gerrard during the World Cup. Like he was flying over to the England training ground and like basically getting it done.
Sort of like Jack has been to get you
It
on
was
the,
a very
yeah,
similar
extra
story,
shot.
actually.
Didn't get a text saying looking forward to working.
Maybe the signal was bad in the Maldives.
Anyway, so Gerrard, it was all done. He texted Mourinho, and then fortunately, Liverpool fans turned to the services of a friendly local gangster who put the old thumbscrews on Stevie. So apparently, what happened is that they basically made clear to Gerrard's parents that if he left, they would not be able to stay on Merseyside either. And, essentially threatened them, which a lot of people have always said it's true. And to be fair, the Gerrard family do have quite a lot of links to some gangland figures. So his daughter is marrying the son of a big crime boss at the moment.
Really?
Yeah. I think she's pregnant as well, Gerrard's daughter.
I thought they were all over in Saudi now, or has he gone with them?
Yeah, well, a lot of those gangsters are out there as well.
Right,
aren't
fair
they?
enough, yeah.
I don't exactly know what
Was
they are.
that part of the deal that it's like, you're not going to sign for Chelsea and I'll have the hand in marriage of your firstborn child?
So dowry. So I was looking more into their gangland links. There's far more. So at the start of Gerrard's career, he went out with the ex-girlfriend of this gangster. And he was just like a sort of like 20-year-old footballer, pretty naive kid. And this gangster, who's called George Bromley Jr., was known as the Psycho, not for no reason. So he basically made money by taxing drug dealers. He was the guy that the fucking scary guys are scared of. So
That
he'd
means
take
you're
a-
like uber scary.
yeah, and apparently his method of sort of dealing with them was to take a red hot poker to the groin.
Feels quite medieval, that.
Yeah, I think his dad always did it, and it was like a family tradition. He then started doing it as
Wow.
well.
Family tradition.
Yeah.
Passed down to the generation.
Normally it's like an apple crumble recipe or something. Here's a locket that my great grandfather gave to me. Instead, it's like, here you go, son. So what you do basically, my granddad taught me this. You like stick it right in the hot coals at the bottom, and then whip down the pants, and then there's a spot just under the ballsack that's particularly sensitive. Generations of our family have been practicing
Dad.
this.
It's like the same poker they hand down. And it was his father's father. Well, anyway, George Bromley Jr., when he finds out that Gerrard's dating his ex-girlfriend, he's firing up the red hot poker. And he decides he starts threatening him and decides to extort Gerrard. He's like, well, this bloke's making loads of money. I can turn this to my advantage. So apparently he threw a brick through Steven Gerrard's car window. He chased him through the streets of Liverpool in his car and threatened to shoot him in the legs. So it all got like very scary. And the Gerrard family, to deal with this, they decided to approach another violent gangster, a bloke called John Kinsella, to sort this out. And to be fair, John did. So John and this accomplice basically went and dealt with the Psycho and got him to lay down his red hot poker. So the accomplice said later, yes, there were some strong words spoken, but I think the thing which really convinced him to cut it out was being shot in the mouth. So apparently they shot him with buckshot, so it doesn't kill you, it just like scars you horribly. And at that point he dropped it. And actually the Gerrard stayed close to this guy, John Kinsella, because he then got done for, he like did an armed robbery, and Gerrard's dad gave a character reference in court for him.
Kinsella's dead now.
Is he? Because he went on the run then, didn't he?
He got killed by someone called Iceman.
What was Iceman's vibe?
Was the only man who could stop the red hot poker. Is Iceman. the hero Liverpool needs.
It is like something out of Batman, isn't it?
What was Iceman's vibe?
Iceman was a...
Iceman. It was actually his surname.
He's a Manchester-based baddie.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently they've had beef for years. And anyway, Iceman shot him in 2021.
Because Kinsella was on the run, apparently, for ages.
Yeah. Until Iceman got him.
John Iceman. So Gerrard's had these links. It's weird that those guys wouldn't help him when he was being forced to stay in Liverpool.
Yeah, I feel like all of that Liverpool underworld, a lot of the players are linked to it, especially if they're like local.
Is that a stereotype?
Sorry, yeah.
The weird thing for Gerrard is if he had gone, he wouldn't have won the Champions League, would he? Like, it's actually a good thing he stayed that extra season.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Lampard and Gerrard.
Also, would Liverpool have won the Champions League without Gerrard?
Good
Yeah,
point.
true.
I think he pretty much won it pretty much single-handedly.
Yeah, no, I would have liked to see Lampard, Gerrard in the same team consistently because everyone said they were pretty shit for England when they were playing together. Like, it
Yeah,
never really
maybe someone
gelled.
could have made it work.
Yeah, Mourinho might have made that work.
Anyway, Trent, I don't think he's had to put up with quite as much. Like, I think the worst is people just like making memes of that mural of him in Liverpool. But there is one fan on Merseyside who will be delighted to see the back of Trent Alexander-Arnold, and that is the fan who asked him to record her boyfriend a Father's Day message. So this is back at the 2018 World Cup. We talked about this on one of our first episodes. I think it's called the Roggans of the Premier League. Good episode. And basically this woman, she was 7 months pregnant, and to try and treat her boyfriend to a Father's Day surprise, she contacted a 20-year-old Trent Alexander-Arnold, he was at the 2018 World Cup. I think he was just bored in his hotel room in St. Petersburg. And she said, my partner absolutely loves Liverpool FC and it's his life. You're one of his favourite ever players. It's his first Father's Day this Sunday and I wanted to give him something that meant the world to him. I'd be over the moon if you could send a quick congratulations message. It would be amazing. To which Trent replied, you got Snapchat? She did. She said, oh my God, thank you so much for replying. Yeah. And a message from Trent did then pop up on her Snapchat, but unfortunately it did not contain glad tidings for the new father. It was just a completely blank screen on which Trent had written the words, I'll do it inside you while you're pregnant. She then replies, I don't think my boyfriend would be too happy. He's a big fan of yours, and you never sent the Father's Day message. And Trent replied, wouldn't be happy I'm going to fuck his pregnant girlfriend? She said, definitely wouldn't be happy. And he said, haha, true. Am I going to fuck his pregnant girlfriend?
Jesus.
No, obviously not. I'm very loyal to him. I can't believe this has come from me asking you for a video for my boyfriend's first Father's Day. And Trent replied, I know.
That's my favourite one. Yeah. The way it's spelled as well, I-N-O.
I know. And then I think it goes quiet for a bit, and then she just posted on her Snapchat a picture of her like cutting up slices of banana, and Trent just replies to it, you sucking dick. And she goes, it's a banana. And then he just goes, stop saving chat. She's obviously screenshotting all of this. He's getting an alert. So it becomes known as the stop saving chat.
I actually wondered what the stop saving chat meant. But
Yeah, it's because he said it.
Why do you think he moved her over to Snapchat? Just because he was like,
can't save the messages, but then she did save the chat. And it didn't work. There's some quite good this week Liverpool fans who've always defended him, being like, come to think of it, that stop saving chat thing was pretty weird. And he can't track back either.
Yeah. So moving on, we told you last week about the latest scandal that's engulfed Neymar. So in case you missed last week's episode, he was at Rio Carnival last week. He was samba dancing around. He fortunately recovered from a thigh injury that had put him out of Santos's Cup semi-final. But after attending Rio Carnival, his helicopter, a few hours later, was seen landing at this ranch outside Sao Paulo where there was a party going on. His dad was at the party as well. And there were some sort of bystanders with long lenses near this party who recorded footage of 20 escorts disembarking a bus outside the party and filing in. And one of them later reported shagging Neymar at this party. So this was sort of a big tabloid scandal in Brazil, but Neymar's camp instantly came out and flat out denied that it was him. They said that he'd never been to the party. He just lent his helicopter to a friend who'd gone to the party,
as you do,
and his dad was there.
And his dad was there.
A few links to the party.
It kind of didn't tally because there were these reports from the girls who were at the party saying that they'd spent the night dancing and / or shagging Neymar.
Yeah.
But the following day, Neymar had a good alibi because a lookalike called Igon Oliveira came out and said that it was actually him at the party. Which, I've got a few questions about this because does this mean that Neymar's dad was having an orgy with a lookalike of his son?
Or his son.
Or either his son. I think it's weirder that it would...
The lookalike is weirder.
Inviting a lookalike of your son to a party and then shagging escorts with it.
Do you think he's like, well, this isn't weird because he's not my son, even though he's is the
Yeah,
spitting
he's
image.
dressed up as yours.
To be fair, I reckon Neymar and his dad probably have.
Wouldn't,
It's that kind of vibe, isn't
judging
it?
by other stories about Neymar's dad, I wouldn't put it past them. But anyway, the jury was sort of out here at Upshot Towers over, was it Neymar or was it his lookalike at this party? So we decided to put it to a poll of our loyal newsletter subscribers, and you'll be surprised to hear that it came back as a slam dunk for Neymar. 77% of them believe it was Neymar at the party.
Of course it was.
Yeah. So where was the lookalike?
Training.
Playing the semi-final against Corinthians.
Played the final.
Because is this lookalike basically just like a useful decoy?
Well,
they're
this
into
is the
like
thing,
Saddam Hussein used to have decoy lookalikes.
Yeah, I mean it's very convenient for Neymar that every time he gets caught up in some sort of scandal, he's just got this Icon Oliveira guy to call up and get to bail out.
Who happens to have access to his helicopter. So.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to let him have everything, haven't you? It's a bit like Maradona's decoy penis. Remember that?
Yeah. It ends up in a museum.
Hasn't it gone missing, that penis?
Yeah, it got stolen from the museum.
We should try and find it.
Yeah, we're offering a reward. 1 Patreon, 1 month of Patreon.
And you can peg us with it.
Yeah, you actually could, to be honest. In order to get hold of that rare artifact, I would
put forward JP for this.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Neymar and this scandal. We might soon be getting a decisive piece of evidence in finding out who it really was, because the escort in question, who says she shagged Neymar, has announced some exciting news. She's pregnant.
God.
So her name is Annie Awada, and she claims that she'd had a threesome at this party with Neymar and one other person.
Or Neymar's
lookalike.
God, high stakes that.
So it is high stakes. So she a few days ago, she posted a picture of this positive pregnancy test. And she's also now posted a scan.
Yeah.
Oh, so she is pregnant.
She is pregnant.
God.
She was in hospital with all this.
Who the daddy is up in the air.
So she got pregnant from a threesome.
Yeah,
hang on.
she doesn't say whether the threesome was with another guy or a girl.
So basically, the father is one of Neymar's dad, or Neymar's lookalike. Well, I've got high hopes for that child's life. Poor fucker.
She's going to be gutted when she realises she's carrying Icon Oliveira's child.
Yeah, that's the one you don't want out of the three.
Yeah.
To be honest, Icon Oliveira's probably making bank now anyway.
Yeah, he's got a 3.2 million.
Can you imagine being Neymar in a threesome and you look up and it's just yourself
looking at you
with a fucking boner looking back at you? Like, how surreal must that be?
And then your dad is in the corner.
So fucking weird.
Yeah, it's a very strange life.
Does Icon Oliveira actually really look like him? Because that David Brent impersonator. Do you know the one I mean?
His daughter used to go to my school.
Is she?
And he used to turn up to the school gates and he'd be dressed as David Brent.
You know, like part of what makes him so funny is
my mate went out with him with the girl, and he was like,
and was he just constantly being Brent?
Yeah, he was Brent all the time. Someone showed me a Snapchat the other day or a TikTok, and he's still going.
Yeah, 20 years he's been doing it.
Is it so? Does he slip out of character at all? Even when he's at home?
He's just constantly he's gone. He's passed over. He's like just David Brent.
Like method acting.
Method acting for 20 years.
But also, like, what's quite funny about that guy is he's a little bit shit as well. Do you know what I mean? He's not that good, but that kind of makes it funnier.
Sort of Pac Bean levels.
Yeah.
But that sometimes makes it funnier.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah,
I think it does.
I'll have to forget his real name.
Going out with someone and he just walks in. I'm coming up to your bed again. You're like, oh my God. I think it was about a month ago we talked about this insane theory on Syrian state TV, which claimed that the great Barcelona side of 2012 had been passing coded messages to rebel insurgents using their passing patterns. So basically the idea was that, like, tiki-taka football, all those intricate passes, the triangles and stuff, was actually spelling out a diagram of where the rebels in Syria should smuggle arms. Obviously insane theory. And I think most of us were pretty mystified at the idea that Leo Messi had a hand in toppling Assad. But one man was looking on in furious envy, his old foe, Ronaldo. Because, you know, as we know, Cristiano Ronaldo takes his rivalry with Messi quite seriously and he keeps score. So the idea that Messi had this accolade that he didn't would have, really, really hurt the fella. But it turns out that CR7 has been chalking up a few espionage coups of his own. And my source for that fact is the BBC's former security correspondent, who claims that Putin, his Russian spies, used Cristiano Ronaldo's YouTube videos to send coded messages back to Moscow. So basically, there was this couple who lived in Germany for 23 years, and everyone thought they were German, but they were actually Russian spies. And they eventually got caught and were jailed. And basically, this couple and the SVR, which is one of the Russian foreign intelligence services, they created YouTube accounts which commented on videos of Cristiano Ronaldo. And so they would write messages that were actually code. So one of the messages just said, "It's a very nice video, and the song is also very good." And then this was replied to by an account called Cristiano Footballer, which said, "He runs and plays like the devil."
And is that the spies?
Yeah, that's code. So
Wow.
that is.
He runs and plays like the devil. That's a real like, the eagle has landed.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Sort of, spy
But
talk.
I'll be honest, I was looking at those and I was just like, what are you actually telling each other that's
Yeah.
important? So
Is it?
apparently it's the punctuation in the messages the sequence of punctuation marks can be turned into numbers, which can then be referred back to like spell out a pre-agreed message.
Jesus.
So I think it's like
Wow.
giving people orders,
that's
being
actually-
like, go to, whatever, the nuclear power station and study their habits, which is mental because I always thought those messages online were just like teenagers in Saudi.
Yeah. Is it all these accounts that are like, CR7 my goat?
Yeah.
Are actually like highly sophisticated
Rouse
spying
it
networks.
These like moronic conversations
Yeah.
that take place on Twitter about whether like Lampard or Gerrard was more goated, calling Ronaldo Penaldo and stuff. Like I just thought that was like teenagers high on energy drinks.
Absolutely not, Jack.
That's actually where the like new dimension of war is being fought. World War III's already begun, guys.
Yeah.
It's happening in the Twitch comment stream. So anyway, this couple, they were getting paid 80 grand a year. No one knows their true names or identities.
Yeah, I read online it was like Ike and Tina, the media were calling them.
Why? Because they were a couple.
Yeah, I guess so.
What's the similarity
Maybe
to
like,
the Turners?
I don't know, Bonnie and Clyde, Ike and Tina.
Yeah, I guess. They were getting 80 grand a year. It's not a bad gig. You just have to pretend.
Comment on YouTube.
Just
I'll
to
do
pretend you spend your days commenting on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I think it's not really, when you're recruited as a spy by Russia, you're probably thinking you're going to be like, dating like post-Soviet mega babe, like slipping arsenic into someone's martini. And they're like, can you
Being
just
Monte
go
Carlo
online and argue about who the GOAT is? It's a bit of a step down.
I was hoping this would be a bit more glam.
Yeah. We did another story. I think we talked about this on our German football episode about Carsten Linke. He was like, again, recruited. He was a German spy and then he became a double agent for Russia. Which I don't know why people do that. I guess they blackmail you. And then he they sent him to a German town. He's like, oh, what am I going to be doing? Am I going to be like working in a casino? What exciting, glamorous gig is it? And they were like, you're going to be a Sunday league football coach for children, and your handlers are going to meet you at the annual barbecue. So you just spend a whole year like laying out cones in the drizzle just to pass this one message to his handler. Spying doesn't sound as glamorous as I thought it was.
No, it never is it?
Yeah.
Is it not? I thought it was, golden guns and all that.
You've been playing too much GoldenEye, mate.
My I don't know if I can tell this story actually. Maybe it's not.
Is it classified?
My granddad was a spy.
Oh yeah.
Really?
For MI6, and so when my dad was growing up, they lived in Lebanon in Beirut, and his dad, he didn't know at the time. He only found out when he was like 18 or something. But his dad was spying on the people who lived in the flat below.
What?
There was some. It was after, what's the name? There was quite a famous British spy, I guess, who defected to Russia, and they'd had some kind of connections to Beirut, and he was sort of like there clearing up the mess after
Wow.
that. But I think it sounds kind of glamorous, but I think it was literally just like they'd bugged the flat, and he was just like taking the tape out.
Was it like a glass to the wall listening?
Yeah.
That's wild. All right, so we've broken the Official Secrets Act. What's the penalty for that? It's like treason.
I mean, it's definite.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
dead.
maybe this shouldn't make the cut. So we had a couple of sad farewells this week. Eddie Jordan and George Foreman, the boxer, sadly died. my favourite reaction to that was a screenshot from a text about George Foreman dying. There's a text exchange. It said, "George Foreman dead," and the person replied, "Check the fuse, mate." Which, you know, obviously George Foreman had a highly successful boxing career, but it's difficult to associate him with anything other than his glorified sandwich toaster.
This lean, mean grilling machine.
Yeah.
What are they? They're just. Yeah,
You're joking, what are they?
But it's like, what's the point? I get what it is.
So the initial concept is so that you grill both sides of whatever you're cooking on both sides simultaneously, so you
that's a
don't
good
need
idea.
to flip it.
That's actually really good.
It is, yeah, it's insane.
it is.
Also, because of the way that it sits, it trims the fat off a lot of the meats quicker. But in the 90s, fats was seen as bad.
Right, yeah.
Now fats are seen as good, so there's less.
Have you
less
got
of
a
a
George
market
Foreman?
for it.
Believe it or not, yes.
Do you use it?
Yeah. I was actually going to buy you one for
That'd be
just
nice.
my regular slot, but I'm actually going to get you a George Foreman rotisserie chicken
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
maker.
Nice.
And I've been on eBay quite a lot the last week, and shit is like skyrocketing.
Really?
Oh,
shit.
okay.
Like an
I
OG
guess-
grill.
Yeah, if you get like
Collectors.
if you get a vintage one from the 90s. then,
Yeah.
But they still sell them, don't they? It's not
Yeah,
like-
but new ones.
You know,
but,
if you get
Didn't
Did you know in Asia it's sold as the Jackie Chan grill?
Really? Same company?
Yeah.
That's great.
It does have a picture of George Foreman on there as well. But
Inexplicably.
yeah,
Didn't Hulk Hogan was in the running for it, and they went with George Foreman in the end, so he released his own one, and then they had to be recalled because they were just like burning people's houses
Really?
down.
I was actually looking into the George Foreman grill. When they started selling it, he was getting 40% of the profits on every sale. He was making $4.5 million every month.
Wow.
Amazing.
on
So
it.
what's this, 90s?
This was 90s.
It does feel like the most 90s.
94 it was launched.
It's like telly
So
sales.
he was making $4.5 million a month on this deal, and then after 5 years they decided like this is way too much. So just paid him $138 million
Wow.
for his name,
Wow.
and yeah, then he sort of
So he
didn't
made
have
more
his
from
cut
that than
anymore.
boxing, probably.
Easy,
Yeah,
I
much
reckon.
more.
Because they weren't
Yeah.
actually paid that well, were they, in like the 80s?
Oh,
and
really?
90s? Well, still big
Most
purses,
sports
but
like
not
that,
like,
yeah.
not like it is now.
He was quite a good boxer, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. I mean, he was highly successful. I think he won the heavyweight title first in '74, and then lost it to Muhammad Ali at the Rumble in the Jungle, which is
Rumble in the Jungle, yeah.
kind of a shame. It's kind of what he's best known for, is losing to Muhammad Ali.
But is that the rope-a-dope fight? That's the one.
yeah,
That's
yeah. It's one of the most
amazing fight.
famous fights ever.
Yeah.
good watch on YouTube, actually.
Yeah. We also lost Eddie Jordan, sadly, this week, the F1 pundit and former owner of the Jordan F1 team.
And probably like one of the most sort of colourful.
Yeah, he
characters.
was a real throwback to the old days of F1. You know, these days the teams are all these like quite soulless corporate entities that are
Yeah.
owned by like shady chemical companies and energy drink
Yeah. It's
magnates,
depressing, it's
whatever. It's
bland.
all, yeah.
Well, he was like a wheeler dealer, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Chancer.
he was from the golden age of F1 when they had, frankly, negligent safety regulations and wide boy owners, which he very much fell into the category of. His BBC obituary described him as a rogue who was sometimes lovable, sometimes dodgy, and occasionally both at the same time,
Love that.
which kind of sums it up. So he started out, he was a driver like in karting, which he funded by flogging dodgy smoked salmon out the back of a van. He'd like sell it. He parked up outside Lansdowne Road and sold it to drunk rugby fans.
What's his like sweaty smoked salmon?
Yeah, I'm
Past its
picture-
best.
Yeah, it's being sold out the back of a van. He eventually got up to Formula 3 as a driver, and then retired and launched his own team. And the cars initially were green. There was quite a good story of he met Kodak, who wanted to sponsor the cars, but Kodak weren't that happy because green was the color of their rivals Fujifilm. So they were like, yeah, let's change the color. And Eddie was like, no way, and signed a deal with Fujifilm instead.
Nice.
Easier.
Yeah. So he started out in Formula 3, got up to Formula 1 with this team, and he had a pretty eventful decade there. He gave Michael Schumacher his first drive, also launched the career of Katie Price.
Yeah, that's why she's called Jordan.
Yeah. So she was a grid girl for
Well, the
team.
team was called
really?
Jordan after Eddie,
Yeah.
and she was the grid girl. Yeah.
Wow.
Do you remember those like her in like those yellow outfits? I do. I certainly
Your
do.
eyes lit up there, son.
Her and like Melinda Messenger.
Yeah. She apparently beat him to register the name Jordan for merchandise.
Yeah,
Really?
which is
Stuff.
she is fucking shrewd.
She is.
Yeah.
Well, she's not shrewd anymore,
Nah,
is she?
she
She went
was.
bankrupt about 15 times.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Which kind of was the way that the Team Jordan went as well.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. They didn't go
They
bankrupt.
did all right,
They
didn't they?
didn't go bankrupt.
Oh,
but
it
I
was
think
in the
eventually, I think F1 just moved forward so much that you can't be funding it by flogging dodgy smoked salmon.
Yeah,
He punched above his weight though, didn't he?
Yeah,
In the
they
90s, it was quite good.
They did really well.
Apparently, when Schumacher joined, he thought like, "I've hit the big time in F1 glamour," and they were like, "You'll be staying in this £10 a night hostel, sharing a room with Eddie and his like team manager." It was like proper shoestring, which is unimaginable now, right?
Yeah.
He only ended up doing one race for them. Which
Yeah,
maybe that's
really?
maybe
Yeah, I think
that's
Eddie
why.
was like, "Fuck this."
Yeah. Ralph did quite a few years there. But yeah, anyway, Eddie ended up selling the Jordan team to a Russian oligarch in 2005. But even as he passed the baton on, he had a last trick up his sleeve. So he sold this oligarch the factory, which was opposite Silverstone. But what he didn't tell him was that this deal didn't include the land around the factory. And he then erected these concrete bollards right across the driveway so you couldn't get in or out of the factory. And then charge them extortionate rent to use it.
That's really good.
Good lad.
Really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, he's good.
Wasn't it also the reason he got Schumacher in? It was like mid-season, is because his driver got.
It was a mad story. So they had this driver whose name I forget. Who there was like a key race coming up, and a few days before the race, this driver was in London and had like a road rage incident where he ended up pepper spraying a taxi driver on Hyde Park Corner and got arrested. So like couldn't race in the race. So Eddie like turned to this young prodigy, Michael Schumacher, gave him his first drive.
Wow.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
We should probably do an Eddie Jordan episode.
I think that'd
Definitely,
be
yeah.
a really good episode. And
What's that sound?
oh my god, what is that?
Shit, it's really moving.
That ominous sound indicates we've reached the end of the episode and we've reached the moment to slide open the rusty door to Tommy Tuchel's dungeon, our new Patreon. And this is where we spill the stories that are too spicy for the main podcast. You know, we hear a lot of things. We try to bring you on this main podcast as much as we can, but there's some stuff that's too sordid, too legally hot, too tasteless to spill on this podcast. And those stories we will be spilling on our Patreon. So
if you are a lawyer listening,
you're banned.
yeah, please do not sign up.
No lawyers, thank you. But yeah, so the Patreon, which is launched right now, first of all, you will get a weekly bonus episode of The Upshot that comes out at the same time as Extra Shot. The first episode it's already out. It's out now. And on that episode, yeah, we'll spill these secret sordid stories, including, of course, the reason it's called Tuchel's Dungeon, which is, of course, the true eye-watering backstory to why Thomas Tuchel, the England manager, was sacked by Chelsea a few years ago. I mean, we've alluded to this story in the past, and we might have even told it at a couple of live shows. But yeah, if you sign up for the Patreon right now, that episode is there waiting for you, and it begins with the full no-holds-barred story.
You're going to be getting extended cuts of the Tuesday episodes as well.
Yeah, so it's a little bit longer versions of those Tuesday episodes where we talk about the most scandalous characters in sport. So some of the stories and the gags that we cut for the normies. But yeah, you'll get the full no holds barred uncut version. You're probably wondering, how do you get access to this Patreon? Simply go to patreon.com/upshottowers. I've chucked a link in the bio. Open it in your browser. Not the Patreon app, I've been told to say. And yeah, that'll take you there. And for just £3, you'll have access to the Patreon. You can't get a pint for that low anymore.
I feel like one of the artists on Spotify right now.
So yeah, that's the end of Extra Shot. We are now going to go onto the Patreon. Join us. Open up your browser, patreon.com/upshottowers. We'll see you on there if you dare. And otherwise, to everyone else, we'll see you on Tuesday. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.